The camera pans across a cold night, floodlights buzzing, the kind of silence that only exists before a statement is made. Somewhere in England, a young winger smirked into a microphone and tried to reduce Arsenal to a punchline. "If United can beat Arsenal," the message went, "then Chelsea will deal with them easily." It wasn't said with fear. It wasn't said with respect. It was said like Arsenal were still the same old story. Almost men. Nice football. No teeth. But football has a funny way of answering arrogance, because when the final whistle blew, it wasn't Arsenal shrinking again, it was everyone else scrambling for excuses. We ask the uncomfortable question for their rivals: are Arsenal finally done being football's nearly men? To understand why that comment mattered, you have to understand Arsenal's burden. For years, they've lived in football's gray zone, not bad enough to mock, not ruthless enough to fear. They chased titles, but stumbled. They played beautiful football, but blinked when it counted. They rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt again, and every season ended with the same verdict: next year. Meanwhile, rivals watched closely, waiting, judging, talking. So when Alejandro Garnacho, young, fearless, dripping with confidence, looked at Arsenal and basically said, "They're beatable, nothing special," it wasn't just banter, it was a test. Because nearly men don't respond with performances, they respond with explanations. Champions respond with silence and football. That statement didn't exist in a vacuum. Manchester United had already taken points off Arsenal. Chelsea were circling. Pundits were sharpening knives. The narrative was ready-made. Arsenal are good, but not that good. They don't handle pressure. They fold when rivals smell blood. And Arsenal knew it. Inside that dressing room, this wasn't about Chelsea. It wasn't even about United. It was about identity. Mikel Arteta didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to show clips. All he had to do was ask one question: are we still who they think we are? Because this Arsenal side is different. Younger, yes, but also harder, calmer, more cynical when necessary. This was no longer a team begging to be liked. This was a team daring to be respected. From the opening minutes, something felt different. Not frantic, not emotional, controlled. Arsenal didn't chase the game. They owned the tempo. Their shape was compact, distances between lines were tight, passing lanes were suffocated before they even existed. This is where the evolution shows. Old Arsenal wanted to dominate the ball. New Arsenal want to dominate space. Every Chelsea touch was pressured, not wildly, but intelligently. Triggers were clear, pressing angles were rehearsed, and emotionally, no panic. That's the first sign a team is shedding its nearly men skin, because nearly men rush moments, contenders slow them down. Let's get tactical for a second, because this wasn't accidental. Arteta's system is built on control without obsession. Arsenal no longer needs 70% possession to feel safe. They're comfortable without the ball because their structure is doing the talking. The midfield rotated seamlessly. One player steps, another covers. Fullbacks tuck in just enough to block counters, but not so much that width disappears. This is football maturity, and maturity is what nearly men lack. What made it sting even more for rivals was this: Arsenal weren't flashy, they were efficient. That's dangerous. Here's where past Arsenal teams cracked. A missed chance, a dodgy decision, a moment of chaos. That's usually where heads dropped, where shoulders slumped. But not this time. When pressure moments came, Arsenal didn't argue with referees, didn't lose shape, didn't chase glory passes. They reset. That's elite behavior. Because nearly men let emotion hijack them. Title-ready teams absorb pressure like it's part of the plan. And somewhere that Garnacho quote was echoing. Every tackle felt sharper. Every recovery run felt personal. Not angry football, focused football. When the decisive moments arrived, Arsenal didn't explode, they executed. No wild celebrations, no chest beating, no sliding in front of cameras, just cold efficiency. The kind that tells you this wasn't about proving a point, it was about standards. That's the moment the narrative shifted. Because nearly men need moments to survive on. They replay them, they live off them. Arsenal moved on instantly. And that's when the Garnacho quote flipped from confidence to irony. Because football remembered. Chelsea didn't deal with Arsenal perfectly. Arsenal dealt with the noise. Here's the truth no one likes admitting. Arsenal don't need validation anymore. They're not chasing praise. They're not begging to be called contenders. They're behaving like one. And that's why comments like Garnacho's happen. Because when teams stop collapsing, rivals try to control the narrative instead. Downplay them, laugh at them, call them lucky. That's fear in disguise. The big question, are they finally done being nearly men? One match doesn't erase history, but it changes trajectory. Nearly men win and ask, what if? Contenders win and ask, what's next? Arsenal didn't look relieved, they looked focused. No emotional release, no we've arrived energy, just another job completed. That's the most worrying sign for everyone else. So maybe the question isn't whether Arsenal are ready to shed the nearly men tag. Maybe the real question is this: why are rivals still talking like they haven't already started? Was Garnacho's comment confidence or insecurity? Did Arsenal answer it with football or silence? And most importantly, do Arsenal now look like the team others talk about before they play them, rather than after they beat them? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate, it's only just getting started.